What's up, YouTube? So, Dylan's car is back. Actually never left. He's about 3 hours away and he just hasn't had the time to get the car yet. But I had other customer cars coming in and had a race schedule happening. So what we found was he had a pretty bad leak on those oil relocation hoses. So here we have our lines, and these are all some old rubber lines, and it's leaking down in that area where the relocation guy is at. Right there, one of those unions are leaking pretty bad. And I told him that I probably wouldn't be able to get time to get the car back and work on it again, but Rich's car was a little bit quicker than what I thought, so I have a day or two here. He actually ordered new fittings already in line, but he shipped them to him, and he's gonna try to get them to me this week sometime. But anyways, another mod that I told him he should do, that I was gonna do and kind of ran out of time, was the big main 3-wire mod. So what is that? Well, this car is having a little issues starting, and typically it's because the starter's just not getting enough juice. So the wiring from the starter through the factory system is probably corroded. It's not that good of a wire. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna take a 4-gauge wire, we're gonna hook alternator and starter posts together, and then we're gonna run a wire from the starter all the way to the battery. What that's gonna do is gonna make that 3 big power link, so that way the starter and the alternator is all getting the same juice. So that way you're removing that stock factory wire. We're still gonna leave it hooked up, but now it has a lot more juice. So if you guys remember, I did that to my car. I didn't do the starter because my starter wire works fine and my starter kicks over plenty of juice, but this car does not. So we're gonna basically run that wire through those 3, and hopefully that is the main problem. And the starter will kick over quicker. And not only that, but when he's driving, the alternator should be giving a lot more juice to the battery versus running through the factory system. So we're waiting on wire to come, and once the wire comes, we're gonna do that. So right now I'm gonna get that kind of ready to go for the new wire. All right, so we pulled everything on the front here and got the alternator off. That way I can get to the starter, which is way back in there. So I'm gonna make the lines here as soon as we get the wire in the mail, and we're gonna run the power wire up back there, down here, and directly to the battery. The battery's a good battery. It's reading 13.1 volts just sitting here. So it's crazy that when I actually go to start it, it drops down to like almost 10-ish through the fuse, because the ECU actually sees what's coming through the car. So that means wiring through the actual fuse panel to everything is pretty weak. So this should be a huge bump. So fingers crossed. Back out here in the garage, about to get to work on Dylan's car. So I think we're gonna start with our wire, our rewire, alternator, and starter and all that. And then Dylan was able to get me his fittings and some line so we can redo the oil gauges there for his car. So we are going to get started, and we already got it pretty much ripped apart here to get to the alternator and everything. So we're gonna get started on that. All right, here's our nice line I just made. So I just made a long line with the butt end because we're gonna go ahead and hook this to the starter and then bring it back and see how far we gotta go. Alternator on. Here's our jumper wires. We have one going to the starter, and you can see the black wire going up. Haven't cut the zip ties yet. all over here this battery. So we're gonna do a temp start. Well, we're not gonna start it, we're just gonna turn it over. So we're gonna take all the injector plugs out and we're just gonna turn it over with none of this hooked up and be able to tell by how it's turning over if it's helped. All right, so we're gonna crank over here. Make sure everything's out the way. All right, everything's clear up front. Injectors are unplugged. And I was feeling these wires to make sure I don't feel anything heating up, and everything feels fine. So, car's on. It's in neutral. Actually, I think this shows battery. Yeah, right there, 13. No way that's battery. Is that battery? Battery. That might be. I don't know. Let's see how she cranks. It does seem better. That's definitely not battery. Boost. All right, well, I might have to hook up. I don't think that's battery. It does seem to be cranking over better. It does seem better. So let's hook everything up and get her started. So we're gonna go ahead and do our oil lines next before we start, because if we start, there's gonna be a lot of oil in these lines and it's just gonna pee everywhere, and I don't feel like dealing with that. So the dry cranking seems like it's probably 50 to 100 RPM higher than what it was. I mean, it was cranking pretty low before. So I'm hoping that takes care of our crank problem. Let's go ahead and get on these oil lines and get his leak fixed. We're gonna have to take off this upper pipe so I can get to those lines, because of course they're way down in there really tight. All right, here are the original lines. They're just rubber. So we're gonna go ahead, and they were leaking on these unions here. So we're gonna go ahead and make some PTFE lines. Started getting a little carried away, but we got our lines. Pretty long lines, right? I already got this guy in, as you can see. Runs down through and connects right here. So, and these are not touching the manifold. I was able to kind of bend those up. So we're gonna see how she does. Hopefully that's the leak. Pretty sure it was leaking right on this union on the other guy. These just were not good or old or bent or something. So I'm really hoping this takes care of our oil leak. Well, unfortunately, it's still leaking. It is leaking out of the threads of the brand new fitting. So I think the male bulkhead that's coming out of the adapter, we have brand new fittings, of course, on our hoses. I think, so how ANs work is the male seals around the female end, and it's just metal to metal. If there's a bad nick or a gouge in any of that, it'll create a leak. There won't be a seal there. So I'm gonna take the lines back off, look at that fitting. We might just have to get a new male bulkhead fitting because it's dripping just like it was before. So, and tightening up won't do anything because AN fittings don't work. The tighter, the better the seal. There's literally metal to metal contact, female and male. And if those radiuses aren't perfect, it's not gonna seal up. So, might have to order a bulkhead here. That was the day. I spent way too much time than what that should have been. But for some reason, this PTFE line was not sealing up. The one hose was not sealing up on both ends. I redid both ends again, pushed the brass ferrule even further down to see if it'd bite harder, and it was still leaking. So I don't know. So what I ended up doing was ended up putting one of his other rubber ones that wasn't leaking back on, and then the PTFE line that I made that wasn't leaking, I put that on. So it has one of each right now, and it's not leaking, so good. And the thing cranks over and it fires right up. So the lines that we made to get more juice to the starter works great. So I have an absolute mess now in the garage, and I still kind of boggle my mind on the PTFE line. I got a buddy that said he gave up on PTFE a while ago. He moved to a Viton hose and says it works better and it seals better, and you don't have to mess with the ferrules and all the brass fittings. So I might be trying that out next time. I've used this A&N Fittings Direct PTFE line forever. I've never had anything leak ever. I've used it on fuel, oil, all kind of stuff. So I don't know if I just got a bad brass ferrule, if I got a bad fitting from them. I'm not sure. But it took hours today, and it should have taken 1 hour to do this job. So, but anyways, at the end of the day, Dylan's car is done. No oil leaks, starting right up. So I'm gonna clean up the car, and I was going to go ahead and pressure wash it, but it's snowing outside. So I might still push it out, pressure wash. I don't know, it's getting late, I'm tired. I kind of want to be done. So that's pretty much gonna do it. And we're gonna go ahead and, once we get everything cleaned up, probably tomorrow we'll take the car around the block and make sure everything's working good. We finally have no leaks, no more smoking. And it's running really good too. And best part is, watch this start up. Starts right up, even with a dead alternator. Yep. So we did find yet another issue. The alternator seems to be coming and going, so I think it's on its way out. So whenever I test the alternator, when I thought that was the original problem, not charging the battery and stuff, well, it was reading 14 volts before. Now all of a sudden it's not. My camera's got all types of little halos on. So the alternator's not doing hot, so I think he's gonna need an alternator, but it starts right up now. So that power wire did a really awesome job of supplying the starter with more juice. It gets to 14 volts fine once we're cruising down the road, but at idle it's not, and it should be. So I think the alternator's taking a dump. I mean, poor Dylan, I mean, he's just been throwing money at this thing. Everything's failing on it, but at this point, he almost has everything new on it, so might as well keep going. So I'm gonna talk to him, see what he wants to do, if he wants to get like an aftermarket or just an OEM alternator, and see where he wants to go from there. But I think once we slap an alternator on it, our charging problems will be over, our start problems are over, and our leak problems are over. So Dylan's finally gonna have his car back very, very soon. All right, we got Dylan's car back in here. We're gonna go ahead and rip the old alternator off. Should take me about 5 minutes. Oh, she's out. So it looks pretty old, pretty nasty, which it is a genuine Honda, but it's so old that the tags even wore off. Alternators are funny. Sometimes they can look fine, but they don't work. So we're gonna go grab the new one and probably have them test this one and see what it puts out. Well, we got our alternator. Brand new unit. Well, reman, I guess, but we're gonna slap this in Dylan's car and we're gonna see what she does. All right, she's in, all buckled up, ready to go. So we're gonna go ahead and fire this thing up, see what the voltages are looking like. And we're running. Look at those voltages. Right where we want them. 4.2, 4.1, 4.3. Perfect. Perfect, perfect. So it was definitely a bad alternator. All right, so now we're just gonna have to go see how she runs. All right, we are in the car, and I'm just doing some test starts here with it being a little warm, because I want to make sure that it starts for him, and it's starting up really good. So here, we'll try it right now. About 2 or 3 hits and it we'll try it again once it gets really warm when we get back. So let's we're gonna take her down the road here quick and get into her a little bit. So we're just gonna run a log the entire time. Voltages are looking really good, 14.3 the whole time. So it looks like we fixed our charging problem. And the car actually drives a lot smoother, so it's pretty crazy how much your voltage affects how the car runs. Of course, you know, it affects your ignition, your fuel injectors, all your sensors. So the car feels way smoother now. It runs a lot better. So he was probably having that issue for a while, and the battery was dying on him. And it cranks over so much cleaner now. Of course, our 3-wire mod that I did makes a big difference as well. So we're going to get into it a little bit here. It should be 14-ish pounds, I think is what we were hitting last time. Of course, we have the new alternator now, so we'll see if it's any different. We'll do a second gear. I'm sure it'll roast second gear off. Everything's looking good. Do probably one more hit and she'll be good to go. Everything looks really good in the data. It did hit about 13-14 pounds. Charging looks good. Everything looks good. She's a ripper, man. She is a freaking ripper. Once Dylan gets a tire on this car, we'll be able to crank this boost up. Bit of smoke off the header. I think it's old oil, so we're going to try to get the header hot here with a pull or two, see if we can burn off that oil. It doesn't look like anything's dripping, so I think we're good there. Like I said, I had a little bit of smoke. I think it's just some old residual burning off a little bit, so we'll get the header kind of warm here and see if she's still burning at all. Tell you, I mean, it's a fun car. It's the 2.4 woke it up a lot. It's spicy. Of course, the 2.0 is pretty much blown up, but I mean, it's spicy. It comes on really hard for such a smaller turbo. I mean, 6262 is a good street turbo. They're very torquey, and paired up with a 2.4 stroke, I mean, it comes on hard. It spools really fast. I think we're just going to do a lay into it in third. Second's pretty pointless. Dylan's going to be very happy with this. Coolant temperatures are staying nice and cool. Voltages are right up there. We're in good shape. I think we got her fixed up now, guys. Well, hey, that's going to do it. I appreciate it, guys, everything. Comment, like, and subscribe. T-shirts are on the way again. I heard they're on the printer press today. So we'll have the t-shirts very soon. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you guys in the next video. Later.